Right now, it's my honor to present Natalia Belousova, an experienced subject and daughter teacher who presents some information about communication during language lessons. Okay, please welcome Natasha.
Thank you very much, Jana, and thanks very much everyone for coming to my little presentation today. Yelena, thanks very much for your kind wishes, and you had a fantastic presentation. So, and it's true, but hello everyone. It's true what Jana had just said. We're going to continue talking a little bit about mindful practices with, of course, language outcomes, as we're all language teachers. Let's just see what we're going to discuss today. Okay, so here's the agenda for the next 30 minutes. So first of all, we'll just have a look at what mindfulness is. Then we'll see why we should teach it. Well, at least in my opinion, it's really, really beneficial for an English language classroom. Then we're going to have a look at a few classroom implications, meaning how we can integrate these practices in class and how we can ensure that these exercises and practices can have not only psychological benefits for our students, but also lead to some positive language outcomes. Then I'm going to share 3 possible lesson routines with you. And here I really ask you to participate as much as possible because I don't want this presentation to be a lecture, and it would be really great if we could turn it into an interactive workshop. I mean, as much as it's possible here in this format. So please feel free to participate. At the very end, I'm sure we're going to draw some conclusions, and then we're going to have about 5 to 6 minutes for questions and answers. So if you have questions or comments, again, we'll have time to discuss them. Okay, so I hope you can hear me well. I can see a couple of comments that there's something wrong.
Something calm about the voice. Was there anything else about
but
her
Jana's here. I guess she knows what to do. All right. So first of all, what is mindfulness? You know, recently I think the whole world has been all abuzz about mindfulness, and the idea of mindfulness-based practices has reached all the possible areas of our life, and you know, people go on digital detox holidays, do yoga, try meditation sometimes, and there are quite a lot of countries where mindfulness has been also integrated into education. So let's see what it is. You can see a definition on the slide that I think I like most of all. I found it on Greater Good magazine. It's one of the websites where, you know, they talk about it and also suggest some practices. So mindfulness is actually the ability to be in the here and now, and to focus on something that's happening around us, and also to focus on our feelings, our thoughts, without trying to escape and without trying to think about all our problems at the same time. I started thinking about mindfulness when I noticed how super busy my students are and how overwhelmed they are by all the things and tasks they have to do during the day. I'm sure you'd agree that you know, when our students come to our class, they're already exhausted sometimes, especially if it's after school and if you work in a language school, not in a secondary school or primary school. And they have to deal with quite a lot of problems on a personal level, psychological level. They have some problems with their teachers and so on. So I decided that I could do something about it and try to incorporate short little tasks at different types of the lesson to help students relax, focus on the lesson more, and reflect more, and just think about themselves for a while, not about everybody else or everything else. Okay, So in my opinion, quite a lot of students have problems with their attention span and their ability to pay attention in class, because quite a lot of teachers have actually complained about it. So the reasons for a short attention span vary from information overload, from loads of social networks and gaming and popular apps that young students use. Then also lack of encouragement in the classroom, because I think our Russian school system doesn't really imply praise. Yeah, so it's more about punishment, and I think in a normal school there is more negative. I can't say encouragement, but negative motivation than positive motivation. So students very often feel reluctant to participate in different discussions because they know they're going to be criticized, and teachers are often really judgmental about them. Another reason might be emotional insecurity, for the same reason, and also just in our society, because children are really sensitive to what other people think about them, think about their appearance, their abilities, their talents, and so on. And then another reason is there's just too much on all students' plates, and I've already touched upon this problem. So all these things might lead to short attention span and inability to concentrate, just lack of motivation. I started reading about mindfulness practices or mindfulness-based practices, and someone has just mentioned that it's actually based on meditation practices to try and help my students. And this is what I realized. I realized these practices might, it's never will, it might improve their focus and help them with a longer attention span. Another important benefit for me is that they can improve noticing skills. And I think you know that for language learning, it's a really, really important skill, to be able to notice different things, to notice how you're coping, to notice the difference between your interlanguage and how expert users of English speak, and so on and so forth. So noticing is important, and these practices can help. And then it's also about decreased stress, and because of that, emotional regulation, and also increased compassion, because if we get more sensitive to our own feelings, then I think it can help us become more sensitive to what other people think and to what other people feel. So the question is how we can do all this in the classroom. I started very light. I mean, I'm not an expert, and I've never really done a lot of meditation practices, but I decided to start with very, very short activities. So I decided that we could do something to remove stress at the beginning of the lesson and maybe between some classroom activities if the students feel a bit overwhelmed or tired. And then I thought that the ability to concentrate and reflect can also stimulate the students' imagination, which is also really useful. Sharpen their senses, as we've already mentioned. Raise awareness of the way they feel about different things we do in the classroom and other people do around them. And again, let the students explore the surrounding environment, because I think adults experience the same problem. When we rush all the time, when we have to switch from one activity to another activity, there's just no opportunity for us to stop and think about what's happening, to look around and see, all the beautiful things around. So the idea that this can let the students explore the surrounding environment is also important, I think. And mindfulness-based practices are also about slowing down a bit, because you know that the dynamics can be really, really different in the classroom. And if the students can just breathe in, breathe out, slow down a little bit, then probably their ability to reflect on whatever they see or hear or do might improve. So let's start with theory, because it's a tiny bit boring, and this is the moment when I'd like you to really, really participate actively as much as it's possible using the chat box below, because now I'm going to show a few classroom procedures that I've tried with my students, and I'm going to show very short videos of something we've tried with different groups and different ages, and I really hope to try out the third activity with you, if you don't mind. Is it a yes? Yeah, shall we? Time? Say yes. Yay! Okay, great. Thanks very much. Okay, so this is my class, actually. Do you like my class? Good question about timing. We'll have a look. Yeah, well, it's just a matter of planning as everything. Yeah, so see, the students are not sleeping, okay? And it's not because they're bored to death. It's because of this activity that we tried with them. And I'm going to show you a short video in a second that basically we'll see what was happening. So I'm not going to tell you anything before you see this video, okay? So could you please watch the video? This activity is about voices, okay? So watch the video, and after that, say what you think the students are doing. This video is about 3 minutes, but I might stop it earlier, okay? Just because it's a tiny bit long. All right, so I'm going to switch to the video now. So once again, watch and just say in the chat what you think is happening, all right?
It was while I was here.
Sorry?
It was while I was here at school that
Naughty
I realized
fingers.
my love of sport.
Did you think about her voice? So
really very powerful, and you can understand how she is.
how strong
She is.
do you mean as a personality?
As a woman. Yeah.
What was it again about her voice that made you think so?
Her manner to speak.
What kind of manner? I mean, what exactly? When you say strong and so or powerful, what exactly was it?
Maybe what types of she touched, what types they come. Oh my God, how to say?
That's okay. Don't worry.
She touched really very difficult and very important types in this world. Some global problems. And she's not just like actress who try to get some words. Now she talk about really very important things. And she actually said that people should to think about too, and she just preserve us.
Who can help?
To follow.
Yeah, encourages people. Yeah. Well, has everybody recognized her voice? No. But, so what did you think about this person? Those who, didn't understand that it was her when you were listening to her voice.
I thought she was in her 40s.
Yeah.
And I think she's older. So it's...
No, she's not much older. I think she's about
80. Yeah, maybe more than 80.
That doesn't really matter. Why? But it's interesting why you thought she was about 40. So again,
Something short in her voice.
but what was it?
I don't know.
Her voice is like, I don't know, encourage to communicate with her. It's like, I don't know how she said it. It's like your friends, so you like understand her and become like close to her. It's so pleasant, something like that.
Okay, why do you think?
She have calm voice, you know. When
So she sounds calm.
Yeah.
She sounds calm. Yeah.
And when you listen to her, you just want to continue doing it.
Mm-hmm. So there's some kind of
Okay, yeah, I'll stop it here. So I can see some ideas, and I think someone was really close to it. You said that they're just sharing their emotional response to the voice they've just heard. Yeah. So basically, what they did was that they heard a number of voices. Yeah, just closing their eyes, relaxing, and focusing on the voices only. So they heard a number of voices, just thinking, you know, they weren't saying anything or writing anything. They just closed their eyes, leaned back, relaxed, and listened to a few voices. Some of them were famous people, some of them were not very famous people. And then they were just trying to think or feel more how these voices were making them feel. And after that, we discussed the feelings about the voices and tried to understand why these voices made them feel so. Another thing they were thinking about is, you know, the image of a person judging by the voice. So they thought what kind of personality it might be, what kind of job this person might have, yeah, and so on. Yeah, let's see what you think. I think they expected more interesting lesson. Oh, they're really motivated, and they said they quite liked it. So someone asked where I got the recording. Well, it's easy, you know, just using YouTube videos of some famous people like Meryl Streep or Britney Spears and so on. So I'm going to show you the procedure and then also talk about the benefits of this activity. Yeah, so once again, the important bit of it is that the students closed their eyes, relaxed, and listened to the voices in silence, because I really wanted them to concentrate without judging whether they liked the voices or didn't like the voices. So it's all about the feeling, you know, trying to understand this kind of natural response. And then we discussed the feelings. We discussed what was special about the voices. So, you know, as you heard, when they talked about Meryl Streep's voice, they said, well, she like sounded trustful, and you wanted to hear again and again, and so on. And then we just talked about the image these voices conjured up in the students' mind. And then finally, after all this discussion, I showed them the real people they heard. So I think the use of this activity is that they just start focusing on some things that affect people's communication, because, you know, when they speak themselves, they don't really think about their voices that much, yeah, or they don't really think about the way they sound. I mean, very often they focus on the structure, what they're saying, the content, of course, the structure, language, but they hardly ever think about the voice. And as they're all students, I really want them to become aware of the tone, the intonation, and the way they sound, because it might affect communication between people and also affect how other people, or maybe the audience, if they do a little talk at the conference, perceive what they're saying and also respond to them. And then as a home task, I just sent them an article about different factors that affect the way other people respond to our voices. Yeah. So of course it wasn't the only thing we did in the classroom, but it was that short mindfulness-based activity where first they just had to concentrate on the voice without really judging. Yeah, just concentrate and feel it. That's it. Okay, I'm going to show you another one. So we're going to do it in the same way. Yeah, it's going to be a short video, and this activity is called Mystery Bag. And please watch this video again. It's going to last for a couple of minutes. And again, say what you think these students are doing. In this case, the age is completely different. So these children are 8, 9-year-olds. Okay, so here we go.
You can't look into the back. Don't look. Your eyes closed. Okay? Close your eyes. Feel one object and remember it. Okay? And don't look. Don't look. And remember what it feels like. Okay? Just remember. Просто запомните. What does it feel like? Okay? Good. Okay. Okay, yes. Your eyes closed. Eyes closed. Object number 2. What does it feel like?
It's
Good. Okay. What is watching? Yeah.
What's comfort in English?
English. Sweet.
Yes, sweet.
What does it feel like? What's your object number 2? Yes.
Smooth hand.
And hard, yes. Okay. And do you think sweet? Yes. It's a tea box. Yes. Oh, okay. Great.
Okay, I'll stop it here. So, yeah, again, different opinions. I can see it in the chat. But, you know, someone said that it's time consuming. Actually, it's not, because it was just you know, part of the lesson, and I put a few little episodes. That was just a normal 60-minute lesson, but you just heard a succession of important elements. So here's the procedure again. So basically, as we like language outcomes again, first the students watched a short video. It was a song about 4 textures, okay? So the textures were fuzzy, hard, soft, and smooth. And in this video, if you like, I can send you a link to this video. You can find it on YouTube. It's just a song. There was also a very useful question: what does it feel like? So the students watched the video first, and then they also tried to memorize different words for textures. Yeah, so as I said, and then they did what you've just seen. Yeah, so again, this is where this mindfulness-based little activity started. So they had to close their eyes, relax, and just feel the objects in the bag. You know, just feel them and think how they felt. And after that, you know, the feedback stage, the students were still silent, and they had to draw the textures that they have experienced. You know, drawing is just another way of expressing what they thought, you know, what they felt, and so on. And after that, there was quite a lot of language. So they discussed the textures, and they said yeah, object 1 is fuzzy and soft, for example, or smooth and hard. And then they said if they felt good or felt bad. And then, as a practice stage, the student also guessed the objects, which implied quite a lot of vocabulary, actually, looked at the real objects, and then explored the room around them. You know, how often do your students do that? So they just walked around the room, touched different objects there, and said what they felt like. You know, so they said, "Ooh, the wall is smooth and hard, and, you know, it feels cold," and so on. And then, you know, you can follow, you can invent any kind of follow-on. So you can link it to something that you learned in the previous lessons. For example, if you talked about a house or a flat, and you talked about different furniture pieces, you could also ask the students what they feel like. The sofa is soft, and so on. So, you know, it's impossible. It's important to just give the students a chance to relax for a couple of minutes. And I can understand the teachers who say that there's no, like, it's time consuming or something. It's not, it's just a few minutes. But after this activities, you can't believe how the children's motivation and engagement improve. You know, just give it a try. I don't think we have time for another activity I wanted to do with you, because we just have 1 minute to go. So before we move to the Q&A session, I'm going to show you 3 main ideas that I think you need to take away if you want to try these activities out with your students. So first of all, little bits of mindfulness in your lessons can greatly improve the students' concentration and decrease stress if you do it on a regular basis. It can increase motivation, and the level of engagement is always very high. And actually, these mindfulness practices make the students speak a lot. You know, and it means that there is a lot of emerging language you can work on. And of course, here your teaching implies not only language instruction, so these activities help you to go beyond language instruction and also teach some life skills. Okay, so this is basically it. And let's just look at what questions you have. Yeah. Yes, I'm here.
Thanks a lot for wonderful videos as well, because it was really interesting to watch. And I can tell that it's rare that we can see the children so relaxed and enjoying English language like they were on the video. So there were lots of questions concerning the technique and the pre-working activities. So how to organize it, and how to teach the adjectives, the special words that you're going to use. How to do this?
Yeah. Yeah, I can see these questions. Thank you very much, Yana. So basically, you can link these little activities with any kind of lesson. So if you want to teach some vocab, like for example, in this lesson that you saw with little kids in the second videos, the children needed the question, what does it feel like? They needed the words describing different textures. They needed some structures. But we know that at this age, we basically teach structures as chunks, yeah? So we teach them more like vocab. So as I said, a short educational video, a song, and I'm sure you use quite a lot of songs with children in your classes. So they first watched the video and took the language out of the video. And after that, we use the meditation activity where they actually used all this vocab that they learned from the video and practiced it while describing the structures. So you can use them as warm-ups, you can use them, these activities, as follow-ups after reading, after listening, you know, when you invent this kind of you know, personalized response activities. So a little mindfulness task can be this task of or this kind of personalized activity. So basically they can be in different parts of the lesson depending on your aims. You know, they're just two examples of what you can do in the classroom. Irina is asking, do you practice mindfulness as meditation? Well, Irina, very light really, because you know, I think you need time to involve the students into these kind of activities. So if you start with, you know, proper meditation, the students might feel reluctant to participate. But things like close your eyes, relax, breathe in, breathe out, you know, listening to some music, they can work fantastic. Marina is asking, have you noticed whether this method has some disadvantages? Well, in my case, it works very well. Again, if you don't get over enthusiastic about it. I mean, you don't have to use the whole lesson doing these activities. You know, it can be just 10 minutes or 15 minutes, you know, as the context for the next activity, as we said, as a warm-up at the beginning of the lesson and so on. So far, I feel really, really positive about using them. Okay, so there's another question about pictures or images about practicing, while practicing mindfulness. Yes, of course, pictures are great because it's also nice to concentrate on colors. And think how the colors used, for example, used by the painter in this picture make us feel, or maybe the combination of colors, or the layouts of the picture, the atmosphere, and so on. Yeah, it's wonderful, and it would actually, if you discuss paintings and pictures, the same can be said about sounds, smells, music, and so on. Okay, we have, I think, 1 minute, so let's have another look.
There's an interesting question about how students.
Yeah.
Sorry. So an interesting question: how the attitude of the students has changed.
How? Sorry.
How they just. Yeah. So one more time: how students change. And what happened with their self-motivation?
I noticed that, you know, it's interesting that I've tried it with different ages, because the group you saw first, the one that discussed, they discussed the voices, they're really motivated. So I always say, you know, you can't judge anything if you try it with this group only, because they're highly motivated, they're fantastic kids. But I also, as you could see, I ask other teachers to try these activities with their kids, and you could see my colleague doing this thing with textures with her kids. And all of them said that the level of engagement was fantastic and the students really loved it. And some of them said that, you know, they'd never noticed certain things before they concentrated on them in the classroom. And, you know, I think it's just a fantastic change from using technology-based activities in the classroom, because technology is everywhere. So sometimes it's just nice to go back to basics and go low tech. The students enjoy it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think we don't have any time left. Yeah.
Unfortunately, yes. Yeah, thanks a lot one more time. So if it's possible, I'll stick around with our teachers. I think they have more questions to ask. And I want to especially thank you for the visual aids that you provided, because now we can get the real perspective. So not just written in words, but how children like it and enjoy it. And the lessons are definitely immersive. Thanks a lot one more time.